Awesome. All right, guys, we are live on YouTube here. YouTube is a master of changing things around, especially in the last couple of weeks. They've made it more difficult to find our live streaming room, but lo and behold, here we are. We always figure it out. One of the things of being traders is persistency, and that's what you can expect from us. All right, so that being said, let's go ahead and get started with this report. Good afternoon, George. Hello, hello. Let's go ahead and get started with this. So first things first, a couple of news events coming in today. Georgie basically covered everything that happened overnight. A lot of drivers. The major driver was Fed's Harker mentioning, do not see low European yields as competition with US. We need to make decisions on what is best for our economy. I am on hold right now. All right. During the US, where's the US session? There's a US session. Sorry, that was during the U.S. session. Georgie covered what happened overnight. We did have a couple of economic releases out of the U.S. this morning. We had August preliminary market manufacturing PMI. This came in at 49.9 versus 50.5 expected, which is our lowest reading since September of 2009. Market took a bit of a hit on the back of that. Not as aggressive as we were expecting. All right. We also had U.S. July leading index come in 0.5% versus 0.3 expected. Bit of a beat on that. We've also had the weekly EIA natural gas inventories, which came in right as expected. The indicated range was 58 to 60 billion cubic feet. Came in at 59, so right along with expectations. Nothing crazy on that front. A couple of squawks out of China. China said to have eased some restrictions on gold imports. We also had out of China mentioning U.S. government officials says China's escalating coercion against Vietnam in the South China Sea. And finally, we also had President Trump reiterating the criticism of the Federal Reserve, saying that they move like quicksand. And this is basically at the time that we've got the Jackson Hole Symposium going on at the moment, with Mr. Powell scheduled to speak tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. So that is going to be a big driver on that front. As far as the remainder of today's session, nothing on the economic agenda. However, that being said, the Jackson Hole Symposium is running today, so there is going to be a bunch of Fed speakers. And to that point, watch out, it becomes super important, especially today and tomorrow, to have a new squawk handy, because any of these Fed speakers, if they say something that the market likes or dislikes, you're likely going to see a reaction on that front. All right, so that's what we got over there, and we'll go from there. Let's see what happens as far as today's session. Let's jump on the quote boards here and give this thing another run. There's one, two. Here we are. Sorry, guys, just getting something done in here. All right, so here we are on the quote board. There is the Sierra charts. There's a quote board right there. So what you're seeing on the S&P 500 at this point in time is that we do have relatively okay volume, 1.03 million shares traded so far in today's session, which is pretty good relative to what we saw yesterday, around 7 to 800 at that point in time. So pretty good volume, and what you're seeing on the back of that volume is some nice directional movement. We have had these guys press into the view app here. Nice big sell-off in the morning, and we're kind of just recovering those gains at this point in time. All right, so that's what we're seeing on SPOOs. Good volume, daily change percentage relatively flat, because previous day close came in at the 32 halves, and we're just below that at this point in time. All right, that's what I'm seeing on that front. On the crude oil front, I'm seeing pretty light volume, 492,000 contracts. Daily change percentage down 0.61% as well. Good sell-off on both of these markets today. However, looking back at it, it looks like it was a simple day to catch, but it was really not that easy to catch these trades. Not that many pullbacks, especially in SPOOs. You can see SPOOs very volatile there. Let me just switch on over one thing here back to myself for a second. Perfect. All right, so that's all taken care of. Let's jump back onto the, here we go. Awesome. So here is our chart. Is this thing giving me such issues right now? There we go. So here's our chart. And on the actual pivot charts, what you will see with the S&P 500, or rather crude over on our left-hand side here, held the pivot in today's session and sold off into S1. You know, we are at, we did break below it. Now we are rotating back into it. So 55.25 around this level should hold as some resistance. We're going to look at the charts in a second. Our overnight low comes in at those 44s. So that was broken, has held as resistance, and should remain as resistance leading into the remainder of the session, just because we have sold off quite nicely from there, and that's essentially what I'm just seeing on that front. All right, so that's crude on the S&P 500. Again, kind of similar. We have come up into the overnight high, tapped it on the head, and then sold off. Now we're rotating back up into that pivot. Since having broken it recently, just rotating up. We'll see if we can find some resistance here in these 22s and continue to press this thing back down into the 2900s. Ultimately, these 29.25s or so are the line in the sand for the bears. If we get back up over there in this market, we'll likely make a run back up to the open. All right, so that's what we're seeing on the pivot charts. On crude oil, here's a crude chart, and this is our 10 tick. Yep, this is our 10 tick chart here. And what you guys are seeing, there was the open, right? A little bit of a bid to start the session, broke below that, and after we broke below the open, haven't come back up since. Actually, we did come back up here, tested the open and the overnight high, and we just recently broke below the overnight low, held some rotations, popped on up, rotated back down, took out some of these stops below here. Now we've rotated back up, and this level is your 5-day VAL, value area low. That's where value area low right here, and the value area high should be somewhere up a little bit higher. Yeah, it looks like the value area high is covered. So what this simply means is the value area low and the value area high is believed somewhere up there. That captures just about 68 to 70% of the last 5 days of price volume, all right, where the majority of volume happened. So this is the area. It's kind of escaped that area here. Now you saw the rotation back into it, which is not really a big surprise. At this point in time, we are seeing that overnight low. You're seeing wicks up into that level, and so it is holding as resistance. It could look for rotations back up into here to look to sell this thing off. Just be careful at this point because you've had 1, 2 rotations into it. This third time could still work, becomes a little bit riskier after the first 2 times. If we do get back above here, I'm seeing the VWAPs, the pit session VWAP and the Globex VWAP in there also should act as some dynamic resistance in between that level. Also, we have the previous day low at 55.60 or so, so that kind of lines up as a good confluence if we do poke our head above here for the downside. All right, so that's what we're seeing on crude. S&P 500. It's being a little bit aggressive. I had a short at the VWAP. I think I got taken out for break even +1 on there, but we'll see what happens from here. Big sell-off. You know, a bit of a bid on the open right into the overnight high. And we're telling the team, you know, it's been kind of the trend that when we see a nice run up during Globex into the US session, we'll usually trade the overnight high and then fade off of that. And boy, did that pay today. Came right back down. And then once we got below that VWAP, just a straight move down into these 06s. We are looking at this in the room, qualified that run off the 06s for the press up into here. In the elite room, we're looking to qualify some shorts. We weren't able to qualify anything as this thing started to run higher. And now we're kind of at the 50% level of that recent move down. We've got 5-day point of control. We've got VWAPs around here. So if the sellers are going to defend this level, this is where they're going to do it for a continuation lower. All right, that's what we'll be watching for on these SPOs going into the end of today's session. Outside of that, let's take a quick peek at our TradePro Performance Index. Here it is. All right, so here's our TradePro Performance Index. Numbers today, not the best numbers. 30% finished the day up, 23% finished flat, and 45 finished down, giving us overall live positive of 54.24%, which is okay. Not the best numbers, not the worst numbers either. However, what it does show you is, we continue to close out the session's majority in the green. All right, so I'm going to keep this one short today. That's basically all that I've got. Not really expecting too much into the latter end of today's session. And that's basically it. So let's switch back off to the camera. We'll make this quick little sign off here and we'll go from there. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure to smash that like button. Make sure to share our channel with your friends, colleagues, anyone that might be interested in doing this. And we will see you guys tomorrow afternoon. Until then, good luck and good trade. Take care, everyone.